Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana. And today I've got 30 reasons to watch the NBA this upcoming 2022-23 season. And the way I've got it broken down is I've got one reason to watch all 30 teams, no matter which two teams are on TV when you click that button. If you've got NBA League Pass like I do, sometimes you like to dumpster dive and watch these borderline G League teams full of prospects because you collect cards like I do and you want to see Josh Primo develop and Anthony Simons and Kevin Porter Jr. and Cade and Jaden Ivey and Jalen Green and Giddey, and I can go down the list. There's tons of exciting crop of young talent in the NBA right now. But watch this video. I'm going to go through all 30 NBA teams. I'm going to give you one compelling reason to watch each team. There's obviously more than one reason to watch some of these teams, but I'm going to give you my one reason why I am looking forward to watching each and every one of these 30 teams, all the way from the absolute perennial preseason heavy favorite down to the absolute cellar dweller teams that are in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes chase. Which is going to be something unprecedented. I've talked about it on other videos. It's going to be unprecedented this season, how early teams tank and the types of trades that they make or players that they shut down in order to discreetly lose games this season. So let me get you cranking here. What I've done is I've sorted it. We're going to go through the Eastern Conference first since I'm a Bucks fan. No, I'm just kidding. We're going through East first because it's alphabetically before West. And then we're going to go in order of last year's finish, 1 through 15. I'm going to give you one reason why I want to watch each one of these teams. I want you guys to comment below if you disagree with any of my reasons or anything I have to say. I want engagement. I want this to be a nice back and forth. I'm incredibly excited about this NBA season. I don't remember this many legitimate teams being in the title chase at this point leading up to opening night. I'm not sure when you guys will watch this video, but I'm filming it on the 16th. So I think we're about 48 to 72 hours away from the NBA season starting. So without any delay, let's get cranking. A lot of people don't remember this. Team number one is the Miami Heat. They won the East last year. And when everybody's asking about who's going to win the title or who's going to win the East, you hear the Celtics, you hear the Bucks, you hear the Sixers, you hear the Raptors as everybody's dark horse for whatever reason, which I still don't get that. The Bulls, obviously, I don't think have any chance without Lonzo. And then you'll hear a healthy Nets team. Nobody thought the Nets were going to continue to have their big three. We thought something would happen, but they're there. They're nasty. They're loaded. But Miami won the East last year, so let that sink in. My compelling reason to watch the Miami Heat is a Victor Oladipo comeback tour. He had a monstrous playoffs last year out of nowhere, and he wasn't 100%. He's coming back from a second devastating injury. It sounds like he's 100%. I got to watch Victor and listen to Victor talk on the Old Man in the Three podcast with JJ Redick. And I'm very excited about watching Victor Oladipo's comeback. I've always been a big fan of him and the way he carries himself on and off the court. He was always just kind of lurking underneath the radar, and he busted his ass and worked his ass off. He reached the mountaintop, I know that sounds weird, in Indianapolis, Indiana, playing for the Pacers. But he reached the pinnacle of NBA stardom. He was an all-NBA player and then got traded again. So for the third time in his career, he's been traded as a cast-off. So I want Victor Oladipo to succeed. I'm watching him very closely. He's going to be the key to whether Miami can jump in with these other elite teams that I just mentioned. The other thing is Tyler Hero is finally starting, so we don't have to hear about Tyler Hero being the sixth man of the year anymore. We'll see just how good Tyler Hero is because Vic's coming off the bench and Tyler Hero is the starter at the shooting guard position. So we'll see how Tyler Hero performs against first-team units for the first time in his career. Boston Celtics. Boston finished second in the East last year, just ahead of my Milwaukee Bucks. The compelling reason to watch the Celtics is, are they next? That's the question everybody's asking. They're young. They're up and coming. They have two legit wing super alpha stars between Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think this is, are they next is one way to look at it. The other one is one last chance. Because I think this season is the last time that we see Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown together paired on the Boston Celtics chasing a title if they don't succeed. If they win it, obviously they keep them together. I think last year getting to the finals bought that franchise one more year with these two alpha wings taking turns on the wing, doing everything. This team is going to be very interesting to watch. Robert Williams is out. He is absolutely crucial and a vital portion of that team. I don't think they win the NBA title or even win the East this season. Unless they have a healthy Robert Williams. That knee injury has been nagging, and I don't know why they didn't do something about it shortly after the playoffs ended. His knee was messed up after the playoffs ended. Maybe there's more of that than I know. I'm sorry if I missed something. But it seems like he should have had surgery and got all this stuff repaired and fixed up, so we had the entire offseason to rest. Why wait until so late? But Brogdon comes in for a bag of chips. Literally never been more pissed off as a Bucks fan. They picked up my former Buck and former Rookie of the Year, the president, Malcolm Brogdon, for almost nothing. So the two questions around the Celtics is, are they the next great team out of the East because they're so young and they're up and coming and they've got those alpha wings? Or is this the last run for Tatum and Brown together? I'm a Jaylen Brown collector. I now have Jason Tatum on my fantasy dynasty team, so I'm torn. I'm usually bagging on Tatum. But I put my heart to the side and I made a trade to pick up Jason Tatum on my dynasty team. So now I'll show Tatum some love. That's how objective I am. Yeah, right. Wink, wink. Milwaukee Bucks, they finished third last year. This is quite certainly going to be the Giannis revenge tour. I am very, very confident that we would not have seen the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals if Chris Middleton had been healthy. A three-time All-Star, you take him off the roster, you ask Giannis to win a series by himself with a up-and-down Drew Holiday, and it just did not work out. I think if Chris Middleton was there, they would have smoked the Celtics, and they are a very big problem matchup for the Golden State Warriors, so we'll never know if they could have been a two-time champion and a two-time Finals MVP, with Giannis, but no Middleton last year. Otherwise, I think they'd be a two-time champ. That's just me. Again, I am not the most objective person in the world, but I really like the Bucks, as does Vegas, coming out of the East with a healthy Giannis. I think this will be the first year where they start to try to pull the reins back on Giannis. I don't think they're going to be, doing game management and load management to that extent, but I think there might be situations where he sits on the back end of a back-to-back, or at the very least, they try to restrain his minutes a little bit to make sure that we've got our big three, Drew, Cash Money, Chris Middleton, and Giannis healthy for the playoffs. The Sixers, a motivated Harden and Maxey backcourt. That is reason number one. We really got to see Maxey flourish without Harden. Well, now it sounds like we've got a lean, healthy, motivated Harden, or at least as of game one. So watching Harden and Maxey in the backcourt is going to be fascinating. Both of those guys like to have the ball in their hands. Harden obviously is the alpha point, right? And I think Maxey's going to be able to play off the ball and do just fine. They'll do just fine playing off each other. They both got brilliant basketball IQs offensively. Maxey seems to be a little bit better two-way player. I shouldn't say that. A little bit better defender than Harden is. So that's a nasty backcourt. A lot of people are picking the Sixers as like the pick of the year to win the East and win the finals. I don't see it. I don't see the depth that they need to do it. And I think there's another team out west we'll talk about in a second that I think might have a historic season, is one of the best top to bottom rosters I've ever seen. And I've been watching NBA basketball for 40 years. Yes, that's how old I am. The other theme to Philadelphia's season is Embiid's last stand. This is the last time Embiid really cares about winning that MVP award. He understands where he fits historically. He knows he needs an MVP award to establish his legacy and solidify his legacy. I think Embiid is going to push incredibly hard for that MVP award. Hopefully not to the point where it affects his health and his minutes don't get too high. You know, these big guys, we want to keep them healthy heading into the playoffs. He is quite simply one of the most difficult guards in the entire NBA. When I say guards, I don't mean guard position. I mean one of the most difficult people to guard and game plan for in the NBA. I think the GMs in the NBA would certainly agree with that. He is an absolute force on offense, unlike really any other force in the NBA at the front court position. Again, Jokic is two-time MVP, but he's tough to game plan against because he plays such a different brand and he moves all over the place. Embiid's just pretty much freaking unguardable. So I think this will be his last push for that MVP stand. So that's a reason to watch the Sixers, is whether he can stay healthy and they can get out to a crazy record. I think the Sixers probably have to win the East, maybe at the very least finish second for him to have a chance to win the MVP. The Raptors, 6'9" chaos. Does it work? Switch everything, right? You've got a little fat guy, Fred VanVleet. You've got a chucker who shoots every time he touches it, and Gary Trent, but he's a pretty good, scrappy little defensive player with a really nasty attitude. And then you got a bunch of 6'9" guys with Barnes and Precious Achua and who am I forgetting? Siakam, Chris Boucher. You can go down the list. OG Anunoby is about 6'7". You go down the list. They're just big and flexible and athletic and wiry and long. And Nick Nurse runs a really strange defense that he throws at people. And it gives people fits, man. And listen, a lot of those guys that I just named can also step out and shoot the three ball. So it'll be interesting to watch the Raptors. It's basically just a bunch of long, lanky chaos. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't like the Raptors. A lot of people are picking them as dark horse in the East. I think they have absolutely zero chance. No chance whatsoever to come out of the East. There's just too many teams with too many absolute mega superstars, and the Raptors don't have one yet. Barnes may be that one day. Siakam is not that guy. He's a fringe third-team All-NBA type, all-star type guy, but he is not that guy. I would like to see Scotty Barnes kind of take that alpha mantle away from Siakam this year. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I think Scotty Barnes is the talent on that team. Chicago Bulls can't do it without Lonzo. They just can't. They can't. They got to get Lonzo back healthy. So what you're watching with the Bulls, at least for maybe the first 30 or 40 games, is can Ayo Dosunmu run the point and tread water for the Bulls until Lonzo comes back? It's really hard to play without a true NBA point guard. Dosunmu's going to do his best. He's a really talented player. Had a great rookie season last year. He's actually a really, really freaking good player. So he's going to have an opportunity to run the show and make all the decisions and get that team where it needs to be. Obviously, he's got tons of ball handling help with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, so I don't suspect they'll have any trouble creating shots or anything like that. Defense is where they're going to have an issue, right? Because LaVine and DeRozan are not great defenders. Vucevic is a horrible defender. Caruso's an elite defender and a solid defender. And then is Kobe White's career over? What's his deal? Where did he go, right? He went through a stretch where he's averaging like 30 a game, and then suddenly the coaching staff doesn't think he can help the team. I'm really confused about where they stand on him. It's similar to the situation with Colin Sexton. It's like the world just forgot what Colin Sexton did 2 years ago, and they're just like, cast him aside. He can't play point. He can't play shooting guard. He's too small. Like, man, these guys put up some pretty good numbers for a pretty extended stretch. I wouldn't close the book on Kobe White yet. So let's see if he can chip in and keep the Bulls treading water until Lonzo comes back. But Lonzo proved he's a really good point guard in the NBA. They got to have him or the Bulls are absolutely no chance whatsoever. They may not even have a chance with Lonzo just because they can't defend the elite teams. The Brooklyn Nets. This is the biggest big three in the NBA, in my opinion. And you can talk about, Steph, Clay, Draymond. You can talk about, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis. You can talk about Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter. The biggest big three in the NBA, the most elite big three in the NBA, in my personal opinion, is Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. That's just my opinion. Now, they're different, right? Simmons is not a big three as in he's going to get you 20 a night. He might get you 4 a night, but he's going to get you 10 boards, 11 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks, shoot 3 for 4 from the field, 0 for 4 from the free throw line. But he gets people open. I remember seeing a stat where he is the best in the NBA at creating open three-point attempts. That's the biggest big three in the NBA. I don't really need to give you much more of a reason. I mean, Brooklyn has been an absolute circus since they first tried to put together Harden, Kyrie, and Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. And so they're must-see TV. I don't need another reason. They're the biggest big three in the NBA. So let's see what happens under the big top circus in Brooklyn. Atlanta Hawks, real simple. Trey and DeJounte playing together. Trey's the point. DeJounte is a point. You put them together, and we don't know. We don't know what we're going to see. I like the way DeJounte fits in that roster and covering up all the defensive liabilities that Trae Young creates. I don't know if he's good enough defender to hide Trae Young all the way, but DeAndre Hunter can defend. Collins is a pretty decent defender. Capella is, on his last leg. Okongwu is coming along as a very good young big defender, almost like a young Capella, under Capella's wing. So Trae and DeJounte playing together is quite simply the reason. I mean, Trae is enough of a reason to watch them. DeJounte was showing me young Russell Westbrook type stat lines. If you aren't familiar because he played in San Antonio last year, go look at what DeJounte Murray did last year in points, rebounds, assist columns. I know there's more to basketball than that, but he checks every box on defense too. He is an elite NBA defender. He is an all NBA type defender without question. The ninth place team last year was the Cleveland Cavaliers. They shocked people by finishing ninth, and I think they would shock people if they finished sixth or worse this year. Quite simply, the most talented up-and-coming young team in the league. in my opinion. So you got Darius Garland. You've got you got a Darius Garland's an all-star. You got Mobley, who's an all-star quality player. You've got Jarrett Allen, who is an all-star, and then you plug in Donovan Mitchell, who's a perennial all-star. It fits perfectly at that shooting guard position. Now you've got to decide between, I've heard random rumblings that Dean Wade is going to be their small forward, but I'm assuming it's going to be, Karis LeVert. I don't know. Let's see what Basketball Monsters got right now in Cleveland. They've got Karis LeVert as the starter and Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade and Kevin Love coming off the bench. So we'll see. But up and coming, the best young team, best young core in the league. So let's see where they go. I suspect they'll take a big step forward. Again, they don't have that playoff experience that sometimes you need, but really exciting team to watch without question. Darius Garland is a absolute budding superstar, and a lot of people are very high on Mobley. I'm not as high as most. I think he's going to be a very good player, but I don't see the next Anthony Davis. I definitely don't see the next Tim Duncan. I just haven't seen that offensive prowess yet. I think he's going to be an elite defender, very flexible, good, switchable defender as well. Charlotte Hornets, LaMelo Ball. That's it. That's the only reason you're watching them. He just got hurt, so really there's not much of a reason. I want to see if Mark Williams can play because I saw flashes at Duke of, gigantic dude who dunks everything, but he had an awful preseason, and it sounds like he's not going to get much playing time, so he's kind of out of the mix. But LaMelo Ball is really the reason to watch the Charlotte Hornets. Rozier will go get his numbers. Hayward's on his last leg. Again, Hayward's a good player. I shouldn't say he's on his last leg, but none of those guys are really, give me that urge to go watch them play. I mean, I'd like to see Mark Williams. Book Knight is a dude off the bench who I've heard really great things about being a bucket getter and an elite scoring machine. We haven't gotten to see it yet, but LaMelo's out until at least mid-November, about 16 to 20 games. My guess is they're going to probably be 2-14 after that stretch. I am not exaggerating. That is a horrific team without LaMelo Ball, a terrible team. They are incredibly fun to watch with LaMelo Ball because you could throw them out there with anybody, but without LaMelo, they're just an awful, awful team. I would not be surprised if LaMelo comes back and they're 2-14 and then let the tank session begin. Between the Jazz, the Spurs, the Hornets, and maybe somehow the Magic, although they got almost too much talent to tank too bad, I don't think any of those teams are going to have any hesitation about trying to blatantly chase Victor Wembanyama in this draft and or Scoot Henderson as a consolation prize. The Knicks is not a matter of if, but when that fails. They're going to fail because they always fail. They overpaid for Brunson. They've overpaid in the past for Carmelo. They overpaid for just go fill in the blank, man. This is RJ Barrett's last time, right? He's been horrifically inefficient. He looks the part, but he hasn't played it yet. I still have faith that he might be able to figure it out, but he's simply got to shoot the ball better. He is a terrible shooter, and I can't imagine he's really this bad of a shooter. Maybe moving him off the ball and taking away some of his responsibility and giving it to Brunson will be a reason. But for the Knicks, it's not a matter of if, but when this fails. And then will they chase the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes? They may win too many games early in the season to be able to really get in the mix with those other three or four terrible teams. But we'll see. The Washington Wizards, when does Beal get traded so they can chase Wembanyama? That's it. There's no other reason, in my opinion, to watch the Washington Wizards. It's just a matter of, watching greatness. And I shouldn't say greatness. Well, greatness. Bradley Beal's a very freaking good player. So watching him is fun. And, him getting traded would probably open the door early in the season if they trade him early enough to go chase Victor Wembanyama. Indiana Pacers is a matter of when does Miles, two reasons to watch Indiana, right? Number one is Halliburton as the alpha, right? He came over midseason last year in that trade from Sacramento, put up eye-popping numbers, DeJounte Murray type stuff. The question is, can he do that for a whole season on a not very good team? They're going to be okay, right? They're going to be kind of middle of the pack, like, maybe the Hawks and teams like that. But the question is, why are the Pacers trying to win games when there's no chance whatsoever they can do anything in the playoffs? I think it's just a matter of when they trade Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. The rumor, of course, is Miles Turner and Buddy Hield for Russell Westbrook and a bunch of picks or packages and crap like that and contracts. If that happens, we'll talk about the Lakers after that trade, if that trade gets done. But that's really what you're watching on the Pacers, is when are they going to pull the trigger and give up on this season, because the sooner the better if you want to try to get one of these two elite prospects, especially Victor. The Detroit Pistons is real easy. Caden Ivey. People talk about Jalen Duren. I don't see it with Jalen Duren. I just see a rim running big. I see the next Precious Achiuwa. I see the next, Isaiah Stewart. I don't see elite big man. I don't see Ayton. I don't see Embiid. I don't see Jokic. I don't see that type of talent in Jalen Duren. I'm not sure why other people do. Maybe I need to watch more. I don't know. But Caden Ivey playing in the same backcourt. Ivey, the question mark is, can he shoot a basketball? He can do a ton of other things, but can he shoot a basketball, or is he the next Antonio Daniels? So we'll see Caden Ivey together, and that's basically Trae and DeJounte 2.0 is what I call it. So we didn't think, they would trade for DeJounte Murray to pair him next to Trae Young. That's point guard. Well, I didn't think the Pistons were going to draft Jaden Ivey, because that's point guard. So we'll see if they can coexist and make that work. I guess Ivey's going to be off the ball, and I'm sure he'll run the point while Cade's on the bench, and maybe they'll try to stagger those guys so they've always got one of those two guys on the court, because Corey Joseph, I think, is the backup, and he ain't doing a damn thing. He did not look good when I saw him in preseason. It looked like he did a lot of eating in the offseason. And then the team that finished last in the East last year, who probably has a chance to finish last in the East. Maybe Charlotte or the Wizards could be worse, depending on if the Wizards trade Beal early enough. The Orlando Magic. Paolo Banchero is the reason to watch them. But another reason to watch them is I think this is the biggest tryout, the biggest season-long tryout in NBA history. And it's a tie, right, with Oklahoma City Thunder. So the Oklahoma City Thunder have an entire roster full of prospects. The Orlando Magic have an entire roster full of prospects, multiple players at every single position, including the power forward position and the point guard position specifically. They've got a dearth of talent at those positions. They just want to see who the best of the best is so they can move the other prospects and try to get something in return and maybe start building momentum and kind of bring that organization forward. So Paolo Banchero is the reason to watch that, and then it's just a big fat tryout for a bunch of prospects. If you like to collect cards and you like to prospect in the NBA, I encourage you to go check out the Orlando Magic, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Houston Rockets, which we're about to talk about in just a bit, because they are stacked with prospects galore. The next conference is the Western Conference. It's the only other conference, right? So we're through the East, 1 through 15. In the Western Conference, yes, Phoenix won the Western Conference last year. I've got Devin Booker as the reason to watch them. Honestly, I feel like Chris Paul is a ticking time bomb. I'm worried. He's had a couple of healthy seasons in a row. He's actually had a great season. He led the NBA in assists last year, people. Do you realize that at that age? He led the NBA in assists. That's impressive. But really, this team hinges on Booker. Chris Paul staying healthy, and then Booker taking that next step to absolutely preposterous elite level. I don't understand why Booker doesn't average 29 or 30 a game. He's got a green light. I think he doesn't. He's so efficient. He just doesn't force enough shots to get there. Ooh, I just had something sell on eBay. It was a soccer card, believe it or not. Let me turn that volume off for you guys. And then the Memphis Grizzlies is the team that finished second in the West. This is the team that I look to have the biggest drop-off in the entire Western Conference. That's my hot take. I think Memphis is going to be fighting for a play-in spot. That's how far I think that team's going to drop off. And I know that sounds weird because they are young. They won 56 games last year, but Vegas tends to agree. You got to remember, in the West last year, look at all the teams whose best or second best or best and second best players were injured last year. I think that Memphis took advantage of that. I think that Memphis took advantage of trying to win every single regular season game, where some of these teams didn't care nearly as much because they just wanted to be healthy for the playoffs. I see a huge drop-off from Memphis, and I say that with all due respect because I think John Morant is an absolute megastar. I really do. I wish I owned more of his cards, but I do not. I don't think this is going to be a great year for the Memphis Grizzlies, though. That's just my opinion. As much as I don't think Jaren Jackson's very good, he is very important to that team. So for my reason to watch the Memphis Grizzlies this year, simply it's John Morant, but It's will John Morant and Desmond Bane kill Dillon Brooks for taking so many stupid shots? He and Marcus Smart are in a contest to see, and Christian Wood. I'm going to put Christian Wood in there too. Those three guys are the dumbest shot takers I've ever seen in my entire life. There are guys in the NBA where you just want to go up and shake them. You want Draymond to get in there and punch him in the face and say, hey, you don't need to be taking shots away from Desmond Bane and John Morant. And Christian Wood, you don't need to be taking a three or trying to handle the ball at the point and run the point every time. And Marcus Smart, you definitely don't ever need to take a shot unless it's a wide open corner three, maybe. But you definitely don't need to be pulling threes off of pick and rolls because there's too much talent on your team. He's like the 7th best offensive player on his Celtics team. So John Morant and Bane killing Dillon Brooks. That's what I want to watch. Golden State, I'm going to be very clear here. This is another hot take. I think the Grizzlies are going to have the biggest drop-off. I think Golden State has a historically great team. And it's not necessarily because of their top-end talent. And look, that sounds crazy because Steph Curry is a top-end talent. Klay Thompson is historically a top-end talent. I don't think he's any longer in that elite category of elite shooting guards in the NBA. Jordan Poole is up and coming. I don't think he's quite there yet. I don't think he's quite Booker. I don't think he's quite Chris Middleton. I don't think he's Beal. I don't think he's there yet. But I think he does have that ability one day very soon. But the reason I think the Golden State Warriors could be unprecedented great is because 1 through 9, they are absurd. You are talking about Steph, Klay, Wiggins, Draymond, right? So there's 4. They start Kevon Looney just because he's a locker room guy, random, big Bill Cartwright type. But then you've got Poole, Kuminga, Moody, DiVincenzo, and Wiseman. I mean, that second unit, the second unit of Poole, Kuminga, Moody, DiVincenzo, and Wiseman would beat the Charlotte Hornets. I don't care what anybody says. That's more talent than the Charlotte Hornets have. They would probably beat the Magic. There's other teams they would definitely beat the Spurs, and they would definitely beat the Jazz. And that's their second unit. And it's especially fitting because that's a team where Klay, Draymond, and Steph are going to need to rest. And when those guys can rest and play, 29 minutes instead of 34 minutes, that's going to make them that much fresher during the playoffs. And they can hand it over to guys that can do both ends, right? Kuminga is a great defender. Poole's an incredible scorer. Moody is shown a little bit of both. And I think Moody is kind of way off the radar compared to Poole, but I think he can do some things. DiVincenzo, I know as a Bucks fan, that matters, man. When DiVincenzo is your 9th best player, you've got a deep-ass roster. I would love to have a DiVincenzo back on the Milwaukee Bucks. And then James Wiseman is the great wild card. I've seen enough of James Wiseman to tell you he's the missing piece. Like, the one reason I thought maybe Golden State wouldn't win the title last year was they didn't have any bigs because Draymond is not big and Kevon Looney is not big. He can't jump. He's not big at all, really. And now they have a very athletic, gigantic Wiseman. I think Golden State is going to be a humongous problem. They are my clear-cut favorites to win the whole thing. I'll talk about it a little bit more in a video that I've got coming up next week where we talk about where teams are going to finish and things like that. The Dallas Mavericks, it's real easy. Luka. When I see this Dallas Mavericks team, last year's Dallas Mavericks team, the year before that Dallas Mavericks team, I see one of the 3 best players in the world, maybe 3 or 4 best players in the world, Luka Doncic, the future best player in the world, Luka Doncic, and I see MJ playing with Orlando Woolridge and Brad Sellers and all the trash that he had to play, Jack Haley and all that Cartwright and all that trash he had to play with before he got Pippen, before he got Kukoc, before he got Horace Grant, before he got, all of those guys. So Luka just doesn't have enough around him. I think he's going to be struggling. He's going to try to carry this Mavericks team like he did last year. They finished 4th in the West. They did have Brunson, and so they're losing Brunson, replacing him with Christian Wood. I don't know if that's a quid pro quo. I don't know. But I do know this. They don't have enough to do it. And I know they got close last year. I get all that. I just think it's a one-off, and I don't think they have enough. So I see Luka getting All-NBA again and doing a lot with a little, which is not going to get you a title, but it's going to get you All-NBA again. The Utah Jazz finished 5th last year. We can pencil them in for last or next to last without question. They are going to fight with the Spurs for Victor Wembanyama. The question is, can they lose 75 games? I am not joking. Can Utah lose 75 games? Can San Antonio lose 75? I don't think Popovich will let them But I really think there's a chance. I think you could pencil in Utah for losing 70 games right now. I don't gamble, and I don't know what Vegas has, but Vegas probably has them winning like 18 or 19 games. No way in hell they win 1 out of every 4 games. There's no way. Number one, they couldn't if they wanted to. And number two, they don't want to. So I suspect that Utah will be at the absolute bottom of the league as far as games won, even though they do have a really good home crowd. I say good, really mean, like bitter home crowd, but effective home crowd. Good home court advantage there. The other reason to watch Utah is you've got 2 guys that have never been the man who are the men right now. You got Markkanen and Sexton. They're going to get up a million shots between them. I suspect both of them will have very good statistical seasons on a very bad team, and they'll put up a ton of empty stats. Denver Nuggets, the reason to watch them is Jokic, right? 2-time MVP, the greatest. I think he's pushing, and we've talked about this on my channel. He's pushing and if he might already be there, even though he's only been in the league for, 6 or 7 years. What is he, a 2015 rookie, something like that? So 6 or 7 years, I think he's almost already the greatest big man passer that I have personally ever seen. He just added 2 more All-Stars. Well, 1 All-Star, Jamal Murray. We saw what he did in the bubble. He's been out forever, so his health concerns me. But let's assume it's a healthy Jamal Murray. He should be. It's been damn near 2 years since he played. And then he's also adding, so far, from what we hear and what we see in preseason, a healthy Michael Porter. We know how back injuries are. Sometimes they just come out of nowhere. It's happened to him at least 2 or 3 times on 2 or 3 occasions, dating all the way back to his freshman year at Missouri, where he only got a couple games in and then tried to play through it, and it didn't go well. So we know how backs are. They're unpredictable. They're mercurial. Let's see what happens. But if he's got a healthy Jamal Murray and if he's got a healthy Michael Porter Jr., the Nuggets are a massive problem in the West and every bit a factor. The only team that I don't think they're on the same wavelength as far as talent goes, the Golden State Warriors, just because there's too much depth. There's just too much depth on the Golden State Warriors for the Nuggets. But those big 3, that's a pretty nasty big 3 right there, assuming health is there. The Minnesota Timberwolves, it's real simple. Bill Simmons called it the worst trade in NBA history. I don't think he meant that Gobert was bad. I just think he meant that the package that the Timberwolves gave to the Jazz was absolutely preposterous. It did not make sense. They were in win-now mode. They wanted to keep Anthony Edwards. They wanted to do something to make sure Towns and Edwards stay long-term and buy in. And boy, let me tell you, they better, because they gave up a hell of a lot for Rudy Gobert. It's a weird fit. We've talked about DeJounte and Trey. We've talked about Cade and Jaden Ivey being weird. We've talked about Maxey and Harden being weird. Those are all guards. Those are all 2 point guards trying to play together. Now we're about to see 2 centers trying to play together. We're about to see Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert play together. That's weird. The one thing that does give me some hope is that Towns loves to float around the perimeter, and he can do some guard things. He's not crazy athletic, but he handles the ball really well for big, passes the ball very well, and then shoots the piss out of it. He can really shoot the 3 ball. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. I think it's going to take some of the wear and tear off Cat from having to guard other teams' big bruising bigs, because he's more of a finesse big man. He really is. So just watching that is going to be fascinating. So watching Towns and Gobert together is reason 1. There's a very clear-cut reason 2. It's how good is Anthony Edwards, right? We know he's got the potential to be a top 5 type player in the world. Will he take that step? Is there too much talent around him for him to take that step? I don't know if he's got that attitude. By the way, he's a fantastic actor. He was really good in the movie. Playing the bad guy, playing the villain. I get the vibe that he could talk serious trash if he really wanted to in the real NBA. But he also strikes me as a really funny guy who might not talk trash. He might not be mean enough to do that. But I really like Anthony Edwards. I wish I had more of his basketball cards. He just came out too hot when the products came out. His price point was too high. The timing was just not right, and I just couldn't buy in. I couldn't justify it. But he's a fantastic player. Will he take a next step and jump into the top 10 players in the league? I don't know. He's certainly top 20, 25 players in the league right now, in my opinion, with the potential to be one of the best on earth. So let's watch him. Let's watch him develop, right? He's one of those guys. New Orleans Pelicans, Zion, period. I don't need to talk anymore. You can talk about Alvarado and Ingram and McCollum, playing point. You can talk about a million things. Look, Zion, a healthy Zion, you don't need another reason to watch the New Orleans Pelicans. Luckily, I get to see every single game on local TV because I live in Louisiana, so excited about that. I'm going to go down and catch a bunch of games. If anybody watching the channel is ever in Louisiana, or South Louisiana, I should say, look me up, man. Shoot me a message. I'd love to meet up with you at the game and rap about the Pelicans and the NBA and just introduce myself to you and get a chance to shake hands and meet face to face. So if any of you guys are ever in town for work or business or pleasure or vacation or whatever, I know some people like to go to New Orleans to visit. I'm not one of them, but I will go to watch Zion. If you're ever in town, look me up for sure. And then the Clippers finished 9th in the West last year. That's a little misleading, right? Because they were playing a lot of the season without Kawhi and Paul George. That's the reason to watch them. It's Kawhi, Paul George, and then I've got written down a bunch of old MFers, because that's all they are, is a bunch of guys where there's two sides of the fence here. It's, oh my God, they've got so many switchable veteran, playoff experience wings like Morris and, Reggie Jack, blah, blah, blah. And like the other side of it is like, these dudes are old. I don't think they're that good. They're just a bunch of rotation old dudes. I've seen this. It's called the Los Angeles Lakers last year. So I don't know, man. I am sold on Kawhi and PG if they're healthy, being an unstoppable duo in the playoffs. But I'm not sold on those other cats around them. And I know they do have some young guys, but I don't think Brandon Boston or Josh Preston's going to get on the court. I like Zubats. Zubats a decent little center, but I'm just not a big Marcus Morris, Reggie Jack. I just don't think those guys are the efficient guys that you want on the team. I don't know. I think a lot of those guys are overhyped. I don't know. Maybe I'm just partial to younger teams because they're more exciting to watch. I don't know. We'll see. But the reason to watch the Clippers is Kawhi and PG being healthy, finally, allegedly. The next team that finished 10th in the West last year was San Antonio Spurs. I have 3 reasons to watch them. Primo, Keldon Johnson, Vassell. That's it. I want to watch these prospects flourish and see who takes that huge step forward. Trey Jones is their starting point guard. I don't know if he's got the upside, right? He's just a little guy. He seems like Tyus Jones. He seems like Mike Conley. Good player, but never great. And again, Conley was a really good player. I think he snuck on an all-star team or something. But will they trade Pirtle to help lose games? I don't know. That's not Popovich's style. We've never seen Popovich go along with trying to lose games. We've never seen the Spurs do it. For God's sakes, they made the playoffs for like 35 years in a row or something stupid like that, or 25 years in a row. So we've never seen this brand of San Antonio Spurs. And last year they weren't great, but they finished 10th, 34 and 48. This year I suspect they're going to struggle to win 20 games because they're going to try not to win 20 games. So let's see what they do. Primo, Keldon Johnson, Vassell. Who stands out? Who takes that step forward? One of those guys has got to be the best player on the team, so we'll see who it is. The Los Angeles Lakers, real simple. They finished 11th last year. Again, Anthony Davis, it's the same old story every year. If Anthony Davis is healthy, he's a top 5 player. You know what? I don't believe that anymore. I don't think a healthy Anthony Davis is a top 5 player, because I can name 5 players that are better than Anthony Davis, starting with Luka, Giannis, Embiid. Who am I going blank on? Jokic. I don't think he is a top 5. Yeah, LeBron, his teammate. I don't think Anthony Davis is a top 5 player if he's healthy. I just don't. So I'm tired of hearing about that. The other thing is, every time you talk about Anthony Davis, you always start with if. And eventually you just get tired of talking about it. And that's where I'm at with him. I'm getting there with Kawhi Leonard. But that's definitely where I am with Anthony Davis. Here's the deal. If Anthony Davis is healthy, and if they can convert Russell Westbrook into a Buddy Hield, Miles Turner type package, is that enough? Is LeBron so great at this advanced age with a healthy Anthony Davis, and then let's say Hield, Miles Turner, and Lonnie Walker? Is that enough to win a title? Is that enough to beat the Golden State Warriors? Is that enough to run around and chase the Golden State Warriors? Is that enough to go play the Nuggets and down Jokic and Porter and Jamal Murray? Can Turner and Anthony Davis get out and guard little teams like that? Like the Golden State Warriors when they go small? I don't know the answer to that question. Can they play with the Bucks when they run Giannis at the 5? I don't know the answer to that question. Again, I look for the Lakers to be better than 11th, but I look for them to be maybe 6th or 7th if, I don't even need to finish the sentence. Sacramento Kings, Keegan Murray, Fox, and Sabonis. The poor man's big 3. It's an up-and-coming, young, poor man's big 3. I really like what I see from Keegan Murray. I've said it on my channel before. I got a chance to play against his dad, Kenyon Murray. He played for Kalamazoo, Michigan. My Louisiana AAU team played against his Kalamazoo, Michigan AAU team way back in 1990. in San Antonio. Shout out to Emil Sarfani in the AAU National Tournament, back when the AAU National Tournament meant something. And Kenyon Murray was an absolute stud. He was an all Big Ten player. He's a stud. His son, Keegan Murray, is much better than his dad. I'll just put it that way. He is a fantastic prospect. He looks really good. He plays at his own pace. I am very high on him as a prospect. Again, I don't really ultra modern prospect that much. His price point would have to be pretty damn low for me to take a chance on him. The Portland Trailblazers, Anthony Simons and Lillard are going to try to score 60 a night. That's the only reason I'm watching them. I think they're good, not great. I think they do have some interesting prospects. I really want to see Shadon Sharp because I've heard great things coming out of the University of Kentucky practices about him, what other NBA scouts are saying about him. I want to see what he's about. Hopefully we'll get to see him on the floor. But Anthony Simons and Lillard scoring 60 is what I want to see. And I'm very selfishly motivated by this because I collect Lillard and I massively collect Anthony Simons. And so I want to see those guys shoot it as much as possible and see if they can coexist together because Simons really flourished without Lillard. So I want to see if Simons can step in and be the McCollum for Lillard or vice versa and see how those guys mesh together. So this is like Trey and DeJounte 4.0. We want to see if Lillard and Simons can exist together. I think this is going to be an easier mesh because I think Simons can play off the ball because he's such a good shooter. Next, we've got the team that finished 14th in the West. Everything I said about the Magic applies to the Thunder. I want to see Chet. Oh, wait, we're not going to see Chet. Okay, so that drops them on my NBA League Pass rankings. Giddey and SGA, can they coexist? Those are 2 point guards. Neither one of them can shoot to save their life, but they're high usage rate, ball dominant point guards. So that's a really bad fit. I hate to say this, and I know this might sound crazy. I think they're going to trade one of those guys, and it might be this year. This is a team that's in the Victor sweepstakes, so they're right there with the Spurs and the Jazz and the Magic, and possibly the Pacers if they trade their big players. But Giddey and SGA is a horrible fit together. I think SGA is going to end up being okay. I know his shoulder was banged up. So we'll get to see from the jump if they can play together. There's just not enough there to do anything. They're just not that good. They're too young. They don't have experience. They got some good talent, but not great talent other than Giddey and SGA. And we really wanted to see Chet in that mix, but we're not going to see Chet this whole season. And then the team that finished last year, which won them the Jabari Smith sweepstakes, is the Houston Rockets, one of the teams that I'm most excited about watching. My reason for watching them is KPJ, Jalen, Şengün, and Jabari. So I think it's about the best young core. Again, I said Cleveland is the best young core, right, as far as winning games and NBA ready right now to take that huge step forward. I think KPJ, Jalen, Şengün, and Jabari are the best prospect 4 out there right now. And I think they're going to get pushed, obviously, by Orlando. They've got a similar situation. If you count Sadiq Bey and Jalen Duren, maybe you could argue Detroit. There's some other teams out there. I guess I should probably look a little bit harder than that, and maybe I'm a little bit biased. But I think the Houston Rockets' super young core of KPJ, Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, and Jabari Smith is really going to be fun to watch. And you know what? You can throw a 5th in there. Josh Christopher's really freaking good. That dude is going to be a great NBA player for a very long time. Whether he's like a Jordan Clarkson guy off the bench or not, I don't know if he's a starter or not, but Josh Christopher's a really good player, and he's going to be a problem this year for second units. And outside shot at 6th man of the year. Yeah, that's my hot take. Josh Christopher as 6th man of the year. So keep an eye on that. Usually they don't give it to guys who play on teams that absolutely don't win games, but we'll see. But I think the Rockets are going to try to win this year. So that's it, guys. That's my 30 teams. I gave you more than 30 reasons, but it doesn't sound good. So the thumbnail is going to say 30 reasons to watch the NBA, and it's theoretically 1 reason per team, but I gave you like 2 or 3 reasons for a lot of these teams. So let me know what you guys think in the comment. Which teams are you most excited to watch? What did I gloss over that I shouldn't have? Obviously, I can't talk forever about each one of these teams. Hell, I'm at 42 minutes already. I just wanted a reason to talk about the NBA because it's right around the corner. I'm super thrilled and super excited about it. I can't wait for the season to start. By the time you watch this, it might have just started. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but as always, I appreciate your time. Please do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button so you hit the bell icon so you get notifications of when new videos come out. Hit the like button if you like the videos. It helps me with YouTube and helps me to grow the channel. I'm also on the Luka Nation Network, so you guys are going to see me 3 or 4 times every week with videos on the Luka Nation Network, including a regularly scheduled Monday PWCC PWCC video, and then a Friday Michael Jordan Explore the Card video. If you're interested in getting into the Jordan cards, watch those videos on the Luka Nation Network. Hit that subscribe button. I'm giving you double the content of most content creators out there because I'm putting out 5 or 6. I'm probably putting out about 10 videos a week sometimes. So you guys hit those buttons and subscribe to both of those channels so you don't miss any of my good stuff. Always, I welcome comments. Just keep them clean and classy. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.